measures simply through executive action. You are watching Outnumbered. I'm Emily Campagno. Here today, co-anchor of America Report, Sandra Smith, host of Kennedy on Fox Business, Kennedy, Fox Nation host Tomi Lahren, and in the virtual center seat today, co-host of The Five and Fox News political analyst Juan Williams. Welcome to you all. Thank you so much for being here. Sandra, welcome back to your old stomping grounds. We're so excited to have you here today with us.
All of you, Tomi, Juan, Emily, Kennedy, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, awesome. So, Sandra, what are your top-line thoughts about the upcoming press conference with President Biden?
First of all, highly anticipated. Everyone is planning on watching this afternoon to see what unfolds. I was nerding out this morning, I think, as Kennedy would put it. I went to the tape and I watched the first news conferences of Obama, Trump, Bush, just to get an idea of what to expect this afternoon. Bill that we know very little about. And Joe Biden should be pressed on that. What does it mean for the average American family? Will their taxes go up? Will businesses be paying higher taxes? There is a lot at stake with this press conference, and we'll really get an idea if this press is willing to dig in and press them on these issues.
Excellent analysis, Sandra. So Juan Williams, coming to you now. The Biden campaign and now administration has promised transparency to the American people. So to that end, is one solo press conference every 65 days enough? Is closing the border to any type of press coverage transparent? Your thoughts?
Well, no, obviously not. I think he's got to have more press conferences. And you know what? He did well in the debates. I suspect he'll do fine in the press conference. A lot of this has to do, I think, with people who are worried that, gee, you know, this guy's 78. Is he going to have a stumble? Remember the stumble on the airplane, going on the airplane the other day, Emily? And so a lot of people are thinking, oh, how is he going to hold up in the midst of all this? But I mean, I think part of it is, you know, we have an aging leadership in this country. You know, McConnell's 78. I think Pelosi's 80. Schumer 70. You know, Bernie Sanders is up there. Elizabeth Warren. You just stop and think about it. So I think in a lot of ways it's his critics who are making a big deal out of the press conference because they think, you know, going back to that kind of derogatory slogan, hiding Biden, you know, oh, he's been hiding all this time. Now he's going to be out there and we can see how he responds, you know, in an ad hoc fashion. So I think there's a lot of that kind of floating around right now.
So, Tomi, to Juan's points, what do you expect out of today in terms of his stamina, in terms of the length of the press conference, and also what do you expect from the press corps? To Sandra's questions and points, will we see that level of not only depth but also breadth of topics that Americans deserve answers to?
Well, I'll tell you, he's got a lot to answer for, and the fact that we have to have a countdown clock to the fact that Joe Biden's going to finally speak to us as our president of the United States is quite frankly sad and ridiculous just to begin with. And we deserve a lot more from this administration and this president than a press conference every 65 days. We deserve a lot more, especially because of all the things he's doing to our country. It's not like he's come into his administration and slow-rolled things and things didn't change much. He has made dramatic changes, a lot by the swipe of a pen. So he has a lot to answer for. But I and most Americans are concerned that the press is going to go easy on him. I hope that we don't hear questions like, what is your favorite color? What is your favorite ice cream flavor? As we saw during that Anderson Cooper town hall and many of the other exchanges with the press. I think that the press has likely been briefed to go easy on him. And that, I think, is what most Americans are feeling right now, and we're quite disappointed. We want to see his feet held to the fire. We're owed that. We understand that he is an aging man. I hope he does well. He is my president, whether I voted for him or not. I want him to be well. I do not want him to be failing or deteriorating because I don't want my country to look weak. But at the end of the day, we deserve more, we deserve better, and I hope that he's going to give us some answers today, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Kennedy, focusing on the actual president's performance for a moment, recall in his book that he talked about in 2016 when he had a meeting with advisors and they were going over whether he should run for president. He was saying at that point that the voting public was sick of what he called carefully packaged candidates. He essentially was saying my reputation as a gaffe machine was no longer looking like a weakness. He wrote, the public could see that I spoke from the heart and I meant what I said. Now, going back even to 2008, it was a debate question against then candidate Biden as well, saying, do you think you have the chops to speak off the cuff? Do you think that you can represent the dignity of the office rather than making these gaffes all the time? He answered simply then, yes. Is that what you expect from him today?
Short answers, absolutely. And, you know, to Sandra's point about some of the press conferences that we've seen from recent past presidents, if you remember, Obama and Trump had very different styles. Obama was so good. He would take maybe 4 questions, but the press conference would last 45 minutes because he would you know, knit these sweaters, you know, these massive yarns of just word salads and go on and on and on, never really answering the questions, but, you know, professorially pontificating. And Trump just like to go out there and have a slugfest with everybody and tell people that their news outlets were garbage and they had stupid questions, and we ate it up. And President Biden has to define himself today. He does. How does he fit in that pantheon? And I think it's going to be short answers. I think, to Tommy's point, if he had had a press conference 40 days ago, he would have gotten the softballs. And now that there has been limited press access, especially at the border, they've had a lot of time to think about that. They have had 9 days to think about what they want to ask him specifically, and I think that is going to be a big one. They want access to those detention facilities. They want ride-alongs with CBP. And they want to make sure that this is not a bad pattern that this administration gets into in terms of blocking media access.
Juan, coming back to you for a moment, it is clear that Senator Biden is no longer, and President Biden is different, especially in that manner of speaking and the amount of volume that he puts forth. And so do you think today, to Kennedy's point about short answers, will his answers be satisfactory? Will they give the answers that we are seeking, regardless of how many times the press presses him on these topics?
Oh, I think so. I mean, you know, just going back, Emily, to what you were talking about, to what Sandra's talking about, you know, let's begin with immigration. I think the fact that he named Vice President Harris to take the lead yesterday, I think that was done, you know, in anticipation of this press conference, because people were going to ask, you know, who's in charge over there? Who's really making decisions? I think it gave her a mandate. I think when it comes to something like guns, he's going to be able to say specifically, yeah, here's what I'm thinking about in terms of executive action, whether it's these so-called ghost guns or background checks. You know, that's the kind of thing. I think you're going to get some of those specifics out of him. When it comes to maybe even foreign policy, North Korea, people are going to ask, hey, North Korea just fired off some short-range missiles. What are you going to do, Mr. President?
And will he answer
I think
the
he's
question,
got to say,
right,
hey,
will he answer those questions?
No,
That's the big question. Real quickly, I want to sneak this in here because I said I went back and watched those news conferences. To your point on expectations, that's everything. People are going to be watching the press. They're going to be watching the president. But President Trump's first formal solo news conference was 77 minutes long. He took 30 questions. That was February 16th. President Obama, 58 minutes long. That was in the evening, by the way. That was the exception. He did an 8 p.m. news conference. To your point, Kennedy, only 13 questions. Bush was in the afternoon. It was only 29 minutes, his first news conference. He took over 20 questions. Sort of gives you a gauge because people are going to have their own expectations. And to that point, remember the debate. Biden, the bar was set so low for him that he exceeded many of even his biggest critics' expectations. So heading into that, that is certainly a possibility that he does have that stamina and he does blow those expectations out of the water. We'll see.
Such a great point. We will be sticking with you for after the press conference analysis, Sandra. All right, moving forward, big tech on Capitol Hill today as we get reports that social media may be fueling the border crisis, with smugglers and cartels using it to get key info out to migrants. Plus, a new COVID controversy for New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, and this one involves his brother. What they are both accused of doing next.
My brother Christopher, as I told you yesterday, tested positive for the coronavirus. Anyone can get